I think I've tried all of them, unless you point out one right now that I've never heard of. I'm really good at ads, but a little secret is I don't like doing them. I'm more of a fan of the creative side or the strategy on how to implement them. But the actual creating of the ad sets, manipulating data and evaluating it, it's just not I don't wake up excited in the morning to do it. I just had to get really good at it because that's what makes the world turn in e-commerce. So, I mean, I've done Facebook ads, Google ads, I've done Bing, I've done Yahoo, I've done, what am I missing? Amazon. Oh my God, you can't miss Amazon. And I do a lot of paid ads on, just strategic relationships with other brands on their websites. I've done some magazine stuff. I've done what used to be AMG, and I believe now it's DSP, which is Amazon Marketing Group. So I've done Amazon video ads, some media buying. I've explored all of it. Amazon ads seem to have the greatest ROI. Amazon and Facebook ads right now for me.
It's especially if you're just getting started. I think the game has fundamentally changed for both off Amazon sellers and on Amazon sellers, where just depending on organic traffic is not going to get you started probably at the level you want to start at. I think thinking long-term for organic sales and organic traffic, very, very important. But as you're getting started, you're probably going to need some ads.
What are some low-cost strategies to market effectively? And I love that question because I don't actually have any high-priced strategies. The only strategies I've ever known or used are the low-priced strategies. Because if you're paying attention, there's no need to use anything besides low-price strategies. I would hate to be an advertiser, for example, for a name brand that has a $50 million a quarter budget and you've got to go spend the money somewhere or you're going to lose your job. I wouldn't know where to spend the money because I'm going to be doing these $5 and $10 tests with a smartphone video on Facebook. There's no need to go spend a whole lot of money. So if you don't have money, that's not a disadvantage any longer. Any of us can film a video with a smartphone of a product being used. You want to have a human element in there. You want to have people interacting. Maybe just surprise somebody with your product. Get a volunteer. All of us have a friend who's kind of energetic or upbeat and say, hey, I'm going to show you a product. I want you to try to figure out what it is and describe it to me and tell me how you might use it. All I'm going to do is film on my smartphone. Then you pull the product out and you hand it to them and you film it. That could be viral gold. You spend $10 or $20 maybe max, sending a little bit of traffic to that ad, see if you're getting tags and shares. It could take off and be an incredible advertising tool for you. And you juice it every once in a while with a few more dollars of paid traffic, but the tags and shares and the viral effect kicks in and you're onto something truly special. So if your question is, hey, what's an inexpensive way to market? That's the only way I know how to market anything.
You have so many different advertisement platforms. It's very competitive at the same time as well. So, a lot of people won't succeed with it.
If you ever run ads or something, you always have to make sure that you defined and set the quantity. We've lost so much product because we made a mistake on not clicking the button saying, okay, max quantity, this amount. So one day we come back, we spent all of our ad budget, but at the same time, this was when we were fairly small and we had limited stock. Within a few hours, several hundred items, boom, were gone because we didn't set a max limit. So that's something to be careful of. Another thing is also along similar lines, set your max budgets for if you're running an ad outside of Amazon or whatever, because it could really run up. So your max daily budget. There was a time where we pretty much, just for testing sake, I had set it to like say $1,000 on a daily budget just to sort of kick it into gear. And I was testing things. I didn't expect it to go live, but it did. And so I come back and all of a sudden I have this huge bill on my hands and there's no conversions. The stats were horrific to show for it, but I've now I'm out another $1,000. So that's something that you need to be careful of. Another mistake is making sure that you clearly define what your goals and objectives are. A lot of the times when we make an ad, there's going to be a different objective. So if I'm willing to spend $20 on, say, promotional to get our name out there compared to $20 to sort of drive traffic or a $20 coupon, these are all different objectives and they all have different results. So by not measuring, by not clearly defining what the objective is, all of our performance metrics were actually down because it was sort of like just throwing money at the wall, seeing what sticks, and hopefully thinking that one would work, but none of them worked. So it's just having clear objectives and clear defined outlines of what the goals of the online promotions are supposed to be.
You know, we're going after products that are solution based. People search for them, people buy them, and all we want to do is to be able to stand out in that very small area, but attract sales every single day. Because whenever you break it down, if you break down into, let's say, a 7-figure business, everybody loves the idea of having a 7-figure business on Amazon. But if you start breaking that down and scaling it back, because $1 million of revenue sounds like a lot, but whenever you start scaling it back, it's really not. Because really what we're saying there is you could do $500,000 in the United States and $500,000 in Europe. Now, straight away, let's turn around and say that we had a number of products that sold for $20 on average. We actually do not need that many products to only sell 700 units a year in each continent. That's only 2 sales per day in each continent. So we don't have to do marketing. We don't have to spend a lot of money on advertising. We can actually keep the profit for ourselves. Because call me old-fashioned, but that's what I thought business was all about, was keeping the profit for ourselves rather than spending it on advertising and marketing and all these different things. We're creating a passive business. We're creating it from the house. So why would we go outside those boundaries?
Invest in PPC ads.
Well, I think the biggest mistake is throwing more money into advertising approaches for products once they have shown that they're not going to be winners. So not managing the budget properly. I think that's mistake number one. Mistake number two is advertising to the wrong keywords. The keyword research is a fundamental part of selling any e-commerce product. And if you get your keyword research wrong and you're spending your money in the wrong place, it's going to go down the drain.
One of the biggest challenges and reasons for failure is obviously not getting enough potential customers to look at your product. That is fundamentally the biggest reason for failure. So if you can conquer and crack the nut of getting relevant people onto your product listing, then a certain percentage of those will convert into customers. But I think by far the biggest challenge is getting relevant people onto your product pages in the first place.
When it comes to ads, you also need to be aware that all of this is hard when you think about profitability, right? All of them are easy to do when you have time, but when it comes to what's profitable, all of them are extremely, hard.
Running PPC ads.
I'm not a huge fan, so I love paid acquisition, especially for software. It's a little bit harder with physical products. This is why I like PPC ads on Amazon's platform itself, because it's got buyer intent built in.
Or so you have social media ads, Google ads, direct pay-per-click ads within the Amazon marketplace. So that's kind of your advertising wing. And then you're going to invest in your brand itself and your presence that isn't directly related to clicks. And then the other thing you can do is develop really compelling story-based videos that get traction, kind of get organic search in that way. Those are the best ways that I found.
So when it comes to paid advertising, I think the hard part is to make it profitable. So that's why I suggest to use, ways around and tagging people and pixeling people so you can hit them later. And don't be discouraged when you simply spend some money and didn't make any sales directly. because again, that rarely happens. You just need to be aware of that. But then using pixels and retargeting and email marketing, you can kind of get those sales later.
Mastery of the different platforms takes time, and they each have their own nuance, idiosyncrasies, things that make them weird as platforms, right? So Facebook is about audiences, Google is about intention, and Amazon is about keywords, basically. Google and Amazon are pretty close cousins in that you're bidding against keywords. Facebook is a different kettle of fish in that you're looking at audiences and then targeting. There's no keywords on Facebook. So depending on your total capacity to spend and your team's capacity to learn, you may want to zero in on one of those platforms first, master it, and then proceed on. So that's the first response, or that's the first way I think about that question is, well, do you truly have the resources to master all three platforms, or would you be stretching yourself too thin, both time and budget wise, just if you were to try to do all three at the same time? I guess the other consideration is related to what we were talking about before, which is that are you looking for top of funnel lead generation and audience with Facebook? Are you looking for comparative shoppers and buyers with Google? Or are you looking for direct product sales with Amazon? It really does correspond to a funnel in some ways, which is why I think each of those ad platforms has their own unique part of the ecosystem. There's not really a lot of overlap there. Yeah, so that would be a second way to think about it. Assuming money is no object, right? Assuming you have infinite budget and you have teams at the ready to work on all three of these platforms. This is the third way to think about it, right? Is, well, what is the, it does depend on the product. If one thing that I think people are not taking enough advantage of is if you sell a product that is somewhat industrial, a little bit actually non-consumer, industrial and scientific as a category, auto parts, machinery, things for businesses, menu placeholders, gallons of just raw materials for construction sites. More and more people are turning to Amazon for this sort of thing. And advertisements can flip you to the top of the page, but at a very low cost per click, because the cost per click hasn't been bid up at all by competition. It's still 20, 30 cents a click, which is where Google was years ago, right? So I think there's white space in industrial, sort of underplayed physical products using the Amazon platform.